us to read.
Okay, sure. I'll let him know. Okay. Okay. So if nothing gets finalized till weekend, okay, if there is no update, so we'll be having this session at our predetermining time. That is from 3 p.m.
Sir, they said they didn't decided yet, but they said maximum it would be of our time itself. I spoke to Mohit Yadav sir today, so he said as such.
Right. So what I'm saying is, up till this point, the timing for weekend session is 3 p.m. Okay. If there is no further intimation with that regard, the timing is going to be 3 p.m. If the timing is going to be updated, it is going to be informed to you as well and to me as well. Don't worry about that. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So let me share my screen. So content. Uh, why is it not getting changed? Right. So yesterday we were talking about malwares, right? We talked about virus and the worms. Okay. So we have got 23 students so far. Okay. So let's continue with that topic. The next one is your Trojan. Okay. So what is a Trojan, or how are we going to define a Trojan? Go ahead, give it a try.
So a Trojan is a malware concealed in a harmless file or something.
Okay.
So it's related to a legend, Greek legend.
Mm, right. So you talked about that legendary. So that is actually okay. Let's go to YouTube. If you guys would have heard about this movie, Troy, maybe somebody would have watched it as well. Troy, Trojan Horse, HORSE, right? So it's a good reference here. Okay, a small clipping from the movie. Okay, so from here the this term was actually inspired. Okay, so what we are referring here is we are referring Trojan as this Trojan horse. Okay, it was gifted to this Troy kingdom. Okay, and actually what happened was the people of this kingdom, they voluntarily accepted this horse and they voluntarily bought this horse inside their castle. Okay, lower down their defenses, allowed it to have entry into their castle. Okay, and by the night what happened, as you can see here, some soldiers from inside this horse started infiltrating this kingdom. Okay, and here you can see a soldier from the inside is doing some kind of a signal here, is giving a signal, okay, to the people who are waiting outside, soldiers who are waiting outside. Okay. So the same logic applies here as well. Okay. So what happens is there is going to be a harmless looking application, okay, or a harmless looking file. So it's like uh, many of you guys would have installed cracked version of games. Huh? You guys must have installed some unauthorized version, some cracked or patched version of games or applications, right? No, nobody play game here,
Yes, so we have.
right? So many times what happens is they the person who repacked that game can embed a virus or can embed a worm in it, can embed a malware in it. So what happens is there is going to be a, it generally binds itself to non-executable files, image, audio files, etc. Acha, okay. So if you are going to bind it to executable files, that is also going to be a Trojan. Okay. It is not that only the non-executable files are going to be covered here. So what happens is there is going to be a normal looking file and there is going to be a malicious file, and the attacker is going to bind the malicious file along with the harmless looking file, and it is going to send you that harmless looking file, and maybe somehow it is he or she is going to social engineer its way, asking you to open that file or execute that file. Okay, just view that file. Okay. Once you open that file, another file is going to be executed behind the scenes without your knowledge and without your permission. Okay, and that is basically a Trojan. What that file is going to do is, what that malicious piece of code is going to do is, it is going to open a backdoor in your system. Okay, and what is a backdoor? How are you going to define a backdoor? What is a backdoor?
So some an access which can be used anytime in order to exploit our system or
Okay.
vulnerability.
Access which can be used anytime to exploit your system. Okay. Anything else? So backdoor is basically, you can say, it's an alternative way of entry into your system. Okay. As the name signifies, it's a door that exists at back. Okay. So it's an alternative way of entry and an alternative way to gain access to your system that you are not aware of. Okay. You do not know that a port is opened, a service is running in your system, and you are not aware of. But the attacker has done it intentionally. An attacker can use that open port to gain access to your system at any point of time. Okay. So did we talked about different phases or steps of hacking? Hmm?
So we kind of discussed in the first class, but not in so much detail.
Okay. So let me tell you, there are in total of 5 steps. Okay. There are total of 5 steps that are supposed to be performed in the same order in which they are written. So it's like the first one is your information gathering. Okay. What happens in information gathering? What is information gathering? No one?
So
So it is collecting.
isn't it like quite self-explanatory?
Okay, if it is self-explanatory, then what do we do in information gathering? Hmm? Reconnaissance, footprinting. right? So reconnaissance and footprinting are like synonymous term to information gathering. Okay, like we can say recon or footprinting here. Okay, footprinting. So what do we do here?
Sir, we gather information about our victim.
Okay, how?
So by social engineering or other things like seeing his Facebook, Twitter, etc.
So you told us that there are two ways of doing it. One is passive and one is active.
Mm-hmm.
So passive is without interacting with the user, like simply by browsing or checking his feed. And active would be by using a software such as Nmap.
Right. So there are two ways of information gathering, or you can say two ways of footprinting. One is active and one is passive. What happens in passive is you try to gather information from openly available sources. Okay. You try to gain as much as information as it is possible about the target from openly available resources. You do not touch the target. You do not try to interact with the target. Okay. And there are no as such logs which are going to be created which can be used after an attack is performed to backtrack you or to pinpoint you that okay you are the one. Okay, and what happens in case of active footprinting or active information gathering is you directly interact with your target. You touch your target, you make a contact with your target. Okay, and you gain information that way. So let me just show you a brief demo of passive information gathering. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to try to gather some information about a target. Okay, we'll just take any random target here. So I hope you guys are aware of this distro. This is your Kali Linux operating system. Okay, some of you guys would have already installed it in your system. Some of you do not know about it, right? So actually what I have done here is I have installed VMware workstation here and I have installed this Kali Linux. It's a Linux based operating system onto this VMware. Okay. Okay, so let's say this is my target website, huh? Panchipetha.com. CHHI. Okay, so this is the website and I want to gain more information about it. Okay, so I already know the domain name of my target here. Okay, so now what can I do? Let's say I want to know the IP address related to this domain name. How can I find that IP address? Any way that you guys know?
So we can ping this domain.
Right, so pinging is the most basic one that you can try doing. Ping, PANCHHI beta.com. Okay, this is one way. There are a lot of other ways as well. Okay, that we are not going to talk about them explicitly, but we are going to keep on saying that the IP address is going to pop up here and there when we are trying to gather information. So here I can see this is the IP address, okay, of my target. So this is like the most easiest way of finding the IP address. Okay. Now let's say I want to gain information r- related to the target domain name. Okay, I
So
want to
can we
gain.
use reverse whois and AMAS lookup
Mhm.
and also things like that?
Okay, reverse who is AMAS lookup. Okay, and what kind of information is going to be presented to me?
So we'll get passive information.
The passive information, that's right. But what exactly would I be able to see?
So maybe some subdomains and all.
Maybe subdomains. Okay, right. So subdomain enumeration is a thing. Okay, so for now we are not concerned about subdomain enumeration. Maybe we can try to enumerate it after a while. So right now I want to know what all information is related to a target domain name. So there are two ways of doing it. One is through command line. I can perform a whois lookup here. Okay, that is one way. I can do the same thing through my browser as well. Okay, I can simply type whois. I can do a whois domain lookup. Okay, and just copy this domain name and paste it here. And here you can see that I can go through this information that is related to this domain name. Okay, I can see when this domain is going to expire. Okay, I can see the relevant name servers. All right, I can see the information related to the person who registered this domain name. Okay, so I can see like the person who registered it is, his name is Amit Goyal. Okay, and where he is based upon Nuri Gate, Agra, Uttar Pradesh. Okay, this is his postal code. Okay, probably his personal mobile phone number and the email ID as well. Okay, okay. So the same information can be fetched by me.
So
Yeah,
hello.
yeah, I can hear you.
So I had a question. As in, yeah, some time ago, I was watching Jason Haddock's methodology.
Mhm.
I think you know him.
Yeah, I know him, Jason Addix. I know.
Okay, so he was using some ASN enumeration. So I just wanted to ask that why are we even interested in searching for ASNs as an autonomous system name?
Yeah, yeah,
Hello.
yeah. I can hear you, but your voice is breaking in between. So you were saying that you uh, watched some Jason Haddock's video.
Yeah, so I was
So
watching his. Mhm.
he's asking that he did something called ASN, something related to autonomous
No,
systems.
no, 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 no. Actually, I was watching Jason Haddock's video as in on web methodology, web hacking methodology. So on that, he was searching ASN enumeration. So my question is,
Yeah.
why are we even doing all these things?
So
As in, why are we
ASN is
interested in ASNs?
right. So it is going to give you an idea of what kind of IP addresses or block of IP addresses have been assigned to your target. Okay. So it is a good method. It is a good I would say idea to map out the internal infrastructure as well. Okay, like what kind of range has been, what kind of net blocks have been assigned to the target. So it basically helps us to identify the net blocks relevant to the target domains.
Sir, can you please elaborate on I heard two topics, and you just tell us what it is about. Like first was subdomain enumeration, second is this ASN enumeration. It's quite
Right. So
intriguing.
okay, we are going to look into it as well, just in a while. So let's see. Cancel. So here we talked about who is domain lookup. Okay. Now that is one way. Now there's another thing that is called as reverse IP domain lookup. Okay. So what is reverse IP domain lookup? What is reverse IP domain lookup? Any idea? No idea.
Sir, you enter an IP address and you find out what domain it's registered to.
Okay, so I need to enter an IP address here, and it is going to tell me what domain is mapped to that IP address.
I'm just spitballing ideas. Spitballing.
So I can even enter a domain name here. So what it is going to tell me is, let me click on check. So what is the information made available to me here? So the first information that I can understand looking here is that it's a shared server, right? The website on which the target website, the server on which your target website is hosted, it's a shared server. And what is the difference between a shared server and a dedicated server?
So in shared server, we will use one single machine to host a number of domains or number of hosting services. Whereas in dedicated server, we use only a specific site to host. Means we are using is only one particular resource system to particular website.
Okay. Right. So on a shared server, there can be multiple websites from multiple corporates, multiple organizations that can be hosted on that server, right? So this is a shared server first of all. Okay. And I can see the IP address as well here. Okay. So this is another way of finding the IP address if you do not know. Another thing that I can see here is all the type of different domain names that are being hosted there. Okay. So the question here is why are we looking into this information and how it is relevant? Okay, so I have received some message in chat in this even if there is a single domain with any vulnerability, we can gain access to all the other website. Okay. So that is somewhat right, somewhat wrong. So why this is relevant is, let's say you are attacking a website and you are not able to find any vulnerability in it, no loophole. So what you can do is you can try attack. Yeah.
So your voice is very low.
Sir, you're breaking.
Not clear. I don't know.
We can't understand you.
My voice is not clear.
Now it's fine, sir. Now it's fine.
Now it's fine. Okay. Remove these annotations.
So can you please repeat the reason why we do this reverse IP lookup?
Yeah. So I was telling you that why are we doing this thing and how this information is even relevant. Okay. So this information is relevant to us because we want to know what all websites are hosted on the same server. Okay. So if I say that I found this IP address, so this IP address is for server or this website? Can you tell me?
So
This IP address for the server, right? So this IP address is going to be same for other websites as well that are hosted on the same server. So let's say I'm attacking my target website and I'm not able to identify any vulnerability in it. I'm not able to gain access to the server. I'm not able to exploit anything. So what I can do is I can try testing the other website that is hosted on the same domain. Okay. And if there is a vulnerability on it, okay, I can exploit that vulnerability, but that depends if I would be able to exploit the other website through that vulnerability or not. Okay. What is the catch here? Let's say there's a cross-site scripting vulnerability on a website that is hosted on the same web server. So Arnav has said that if there's any vulnerability, we can gain access to all the other websites. So there's a cross-site scripting vulnerability. Now, would I be able to gain access to other websites as well?
yes, sir. I think.
How would I be able to gain access to other websites through a cross-site scripting attack?
So maybe not through a cross-site scripting attack because it's done directly on the website.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking, right? I am specifically asking for an XSS. So the what I am trying to focus here is that whatever vulnerability that you are going to find, that should give you access to the server. If you are not able to access the server the other way, you would not be able to exploit other websites. Okay. So you need to find some other website that is hosted on the same server and then exploit that website to gain the access of the server. Once you have the access of the server, you have access to all the other websites that are hosted on that server. Okay. So that's why it is relevant. Can you elaborate the point again? What is not clear? Ask me. Huh? What I am saying is, if I'm attacking another website, okay, that is hosted on the same server, and I have motive of attacking my, let's say, let me take certain example here. Okay. So this was my actually initial target here. Okay. I wanted to exploit this website. I tried uh, everything possible, but I was not able to gain access to this server. I was not able to identify any vulnerability. So what I can do is I can go through these websites. Okay. Let's say I pick up this one. Okay. infosix.net. This one. Now I am going to attack upon this website. Okay. And what I'm looking for is, I'm not just looking to exploit this website. I'm not looking for it. I'm looking away from this website to have access to this server, probably some kind of a web shell on the server. Okay. Or a RC based vulnerability, so that I am able, once I have control over the server, I can control all the domains that are hosted on the server, everything that is hosted, including this one. Whatever is hosted, I can access, I can control. Okay.
Sir, if we gain access to the to a server, so can we exploit that IP address in using SQL map, like the database part, or not?
If yeah, so you are saying that if you have access to the server, can you exploit it using SQL map?
Yes, sir.
This is what we're asking, right?
Yes.
So the first question is that is there any SQL database that is running? If it is not running, how will you going to exploit it?
If there is running, let's just
If
assume
it is
that.
running and it is going to be running on that same server, and you have the access to the server, so you do not need an SQL map. Okay, you can right away access the database. It's like you have a database running on your own machine. Okay, you do not need to exploit it in some fancy way. You just need to log into the database that is running on your own system. It is that easy. Okay, you will be requiring SQL map to remotely attack upon a SQL server. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. So let's go ahead. Clear this thing. Okay. So now let's talk about subdomains. And if
So
I
there's
need,
a question in the chat box.
can you elaborate? What is the question? What is the question?
The elaborating thing, I think.
That's what I did, right? After receiving that question, then only I elaborated.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Right, Arnav? I hope that this thing is clear to you now. Yes, sir. Okay, cool. So let's talk about subdomains. So first of all, what is a subdomain? This is the subdomain here. Okay. This is the domain name. This is your TLD. Okay, top level domain name, and your subdomain. Okay. So there are a variety of ways to enumerate a subdomain. Okay. There are certain browser-based subdomain enumeration tools. There are certain command line-based, like Sublister. If you guys would have heard about it, Sublister is a tool that you can use for enumerating the subdomain. Or else, if I need to enumerate the subdomains through a web, I can use Google Dorking to enumerate subdomains. Okay. So have you guys heard about Google Dorking? Google Docs.
Yes, sir.
Google Docs, Google Docking, or alternatively, we can say Google Hacking. That is also right. What is Google Docking? Who is going to explain me?
Sir, I actually I know something, but I exactly don't know the whole thing, the whole point. But it's something related to, like, it provides some kind of links, like .html files or .php related to a specific domain. Like it's a to like it's a tool used in SQL injection, like for trial and error basis method, right?
We can use
That's
some keywords like in URL and something like that to get specific data from Google.
Sort of a search filter.
Sort of a search filter using specific keywords. So actually, Google Docking is basically, you can say it's a advanced searching mechanism. Okay. So that you can precisely search for something. Okay. Yeah, right. In the chat, you can see certain example like in URL, in title.
Your
So
voice is breaking again.
in title, okay, so on, so forth. Let's get back to my Kali. Let's just try to search something here. Let's say, let's search for Metasploit. Huh? Metasploit. So this was my keyword. I was looking for something related to Metasploit. Okay. And you can see how many results I am provided with. It's like 32 lakh results. Okay. So practically that is not possible for me to go through, right? Go through all of these results. And I'm not even getting the precise data what I am looking for. Okay. So one thing that you guys need to understand first of all is in here, whatever you see uh, in the blue color, this is considered as the title. Okay. This is the title of the website. Okay. Title. And whatever you see above that, this is your URL. And this is your text, this stuff in gray color. So now what I can do is, let's say, I can use in title Metasploit. Just press enter. So suddenly my output is reduced from 32 lakh results to 1.5 lakh results. Okay. So in the output, what is the condition that I have applied? Only show me those output which are having this keyword in the title. Okay. Only show me those output. Ignore everything else. Right. In title is clear.
Yes, sir.
So similarly, I can use other keywords as well, like in URL colon, and I want to say that whatever output I am going to see, it should have Metasploit in the title, and in the URL, let's say it is going to be, it must have hacking in the URL. Okay. So here you can see that my output is reduced to 3000. Okay. And the keyword that I used is in title and in URL. So what this query is doing is, it is only going to show me those pages which are having hacking as a keyword in the URL. Let me just try to open this one or this one. Metasploit is there in the title. Okay. And hacking is there in the URL. You can see. Okay. So similarly, there is a doc called file type. File type. So what this file type doc is going to do is, it is going to narrow my search to specific file type. Let's say file type PDF. Okay. I only want to look PDF files that are having Metasploit in the title and the hacking keyword in the URL. Reduced to 793 results. Okay. Another thing that you need to notice here is whatever links are shown to me here, all of those links are going to be your PDF types. Like let me click open it. Yeah, it's a PDF type. Let's just open something else here. Something else here. Okay, another PDF here. Right. So that is basically a high level overview of Google Docking. Now there is another doc that I would like to introduce, that is Site. Okay. What Site is going to do is it is going to specifically look uh, in a specific domain only. Okay. So let's say if I want to uh, if I want to see all the hacking articles from medium.com, what is the doc that I'm supposed to use? You guys can try giving your answer in the chat box. I want to see all the hacking related articles from medium.com. Give it a try. Okay, I am receiving certain replies here. In URL site. Okay. In title, in URL, site, in title, in URL, in URL, in title. Okay. Site, in title. Right. So the best way to look for such thing is you can use site. Okay. I can type medium.com here. So what site is going to do is site is going to take a domain name as a parameter. Okay. And then I can provide, let's say, in title hacking. Okay. So this is not the only way of doing it, but I would say that this is the best way of doing it. There are other ways as well, like you guys have mentioned in the chat. That is also right. But what you guys are you guys can try observing the difference in the output when you guys are going to use in URL and in site. Okay. In URL can look into the in URL is going to try to match the keyword anywhere in the URL. Okay. On the other hand, site is going to lock something to a specific domain name here only. Okay, only the domain name part. Site is only concerned about the domain name. So here you can see around about 14,000 articles, and every article is going to have, it is always going to be from medium.com. Okay. You can go through the output. On the other hand, if I try to do this using in URL, either type medium or medium.com, in title hacking, let's see, what do we have here? 11,000 results. Okay. Try to go through some more results. Okay. So here you can see the domain name is GOOGL. Okay. forum.golangbridge.org. That is not the domain name that we were looking for initially. Okay. So that is basically the difference between site and in URL. So now how can I use Google Docking to enumerate subdomains? can even Google Docking be used for enumerating the subdomains? That is my first question. If yes, how can I use that for subdomain enumeration?
Sir, if we just search site colon and a particular site, will it enlist all the subdomains which it has in the results?
Yes, it is going to. We are just restricting it to this domain. Okay. If I'm going to say www.paypal.com, then it is going to restrict my results to this specific subdomain. Okay. If I'm not mentioning it, it is going to show me all the output, all the subdomains as well. So on the first page, I can see that only the www subdomain is visible to me. Okay. And that is not good subdomain enumeration. I want to see much more subdomains. So what I can do is I can exclude this keyword using minus or hyphen sign. So now it is not going to show me that hyphen, that www. Okay. So now you can see business.sandbox.paypal.com, payouts.paypal.com, ic.paypal.com hyphen ic. You can see developer.paypal.com. Okay. Payouts.paypal.com. Okay. Balancepayout.paypal.com. Right. AK test, sandbox, partner manager. What else? Business sandbox, variety of stuff. Manager.paypal.com. Similarly, and so forth. I can specifically start excluding the domain names that I have already enumerated, and I would be able to see more and more output. Okay. Okay. So that was one way using Google Docs.
And so if we want all the results in a single text file, can we automate something?
Yeah. So there are automated tools as well. If we want,
As in, if I want these results in a single text file without even using a tool.
so no, that is not possible then. Okay.
Okay.
So let's go
Sir,
here.
when we use Zap in for enumeration or reconnaissance, doesn't it go through all the possible subdomains of website?
So that depends. Okay. When you are saying reconnaissance, you are basically talking about the spidering and all that stuff, right? What does it do in the reconnaissance
Yes,
phase?
sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So nothing here is going to be a single short solution for you. Okay. In spite of using the best available tool, still there are chances that you can miss something. Okay. Virus total.com. So what I can do is I can go to the URL, just type paypal.com, press enter. Right. Okay. Scroll it. Nope, not here. Details. Okay. Links, outgoing links. No, these are not relevant. Okay. So, yeah, virus total used to enumerate subdomain. Let me see if I need to enter it here. Paypal.com. Who is lookup? Google results. Nope. It used to give me a list of subdomains. Yeah, here it is. You can see. Okay. So you can use third-party websites like this, or you can use some kind of automated tool like Sublister and similar stuff like that. Okay. So we are not going to take a deep dive into subdomain enumeration because it is like a very vast topic in itself. So, but anyways, I hope it gives you a good idea. Like, if you want to enumerate certain subdomains, you can get it this way: pix.papal, API, C, business, images, history, T, checkout, so on, so forth. Okay. Now talking about Google Docs, there is something called as Google Hacking Database, okay, or GHDB. So what happens here is basically this is your Google Hacking Database, okay, and this is basically a database of all the docs that are submitted by people like you and me, okay, security researchers. So the only requirement here is that it needs to fall under some specific category and it needs to be unique. Okay. So what I can do is I can try using this domain, this Google Doc that is available here. Copy. It says it is going to show you page containing login portals. Okay. Let's go to Google. Let's just paste it here. In title, press enter. Probably doc, I can see it is going to be something related to D-Link routers, as it says D-Link systems, stuff like that, wireless AP. Okay. Let's open this one, this one. Let's just open first two results. First sample. Opening, opened, opened. So this is a domain from FI. FI is probably from Finland, if I'm not wrong. I can confirm the same thing uh, from here as well. FI TLD. Just give me a minute, guys. Receiving a call. Yeah, so FI is for Finland, right? So it's a probably an access point or a wireless router based in Finland, and this one is your based in Canada, CA. Okay, let me just try logging it with default credentials like admin. Just click on login. I've successfully logged in as well. Poor choice of passwords. Right, so not going to enumerate it further, just for demonstration purpose. Just close it. Try logging in it here as well. Admin, login. Yeah. Right. Great, huh? Well, current pin is this. Good. Let's close this thing. So basically, this was just to show you that there's a dedicated database for you guys to explore with respect to your Google Docs. Okay. You can look into docs of various kinds here. Files containing passwords. You can go through it. Or various online devices, probably talking about IoT here. Sensitive directories. Once I was able to find the PAN card images of a lot of people. Let me just filter it using sensitive directories. Let me see. Yeah, here is the one. Index of services PAN card. Just copy it, paste it here, click enter. Let's click on it. Some JPG file, probably the latest data, 18 Feb 2020, March, June. Just randomly click on some image. Let's see what do we have here. Taking some time to load. But by this part itself, you can see that it's a PAN card detail, PAN card image. So let's not open it completely. Let's go back. So similarly, you can get a lot of PAN cards here, and it's a pretty sensitive information. Okay. This is voter ID, I believe, some old or old PAN card itself. Yeah, it's PAN only, older one. Right. Let's go back.
Sir, why is this information openly available?
That is because the server is misconfigured. Okay. The access to this directory, which is having this information, shall not be openly available. Like, not everyone should be allowed to have access to it. It should only be available through the local host or to the admin page. Okay. But see, this is the reality. Probably some kind of a, it was some kind of a financial service who does not care about the security. You can see VRV Finance. VRV Finance. Okay. That is the website. They do not operate for certain VAPT engagement, I believe. That's why this information is available here. Well, so this was just to give you guys an idea. Like, you do not need to be very smart to start hacking. Okay. You just need to know a little bit of stuff here, a little bit of there, and it's good to go. You can right away start. Even you can find clear text passwords. Okay. There are certain files. You can find Excel files or SQL database files, log files, which contain passwords in clear text, and they are openly available on the internet. Okay. Like files containing juicy information, or you can look for files containing passwords. That is also going to work. So many times what I have seen is like there's a corporate and they hired a team of pen testers. They did a VAPT. They created a report of VAPT, and a VAPT report is very sensitive. Okay. It contains all the sensitive information about the internal infrastructure of the corporate. So, and then they uploaded it to some website, probably the target or the whosoever was the client, and then they forget to take that down. Okay. Nessus scan reports, VAPT reports are also available through docs. Okay. You can see openly available IP cameras. Have you seen IP cameras online? Like openly available IP cameras?
No, sir.
Never tried doing that?
So what are IP cameras?
Okay, what are IP cameras? So, okay, so what are IP cameras? Cameras which can be accessed, which have a public IP address assigned to them and can be accessed throughout the globe, anywhere from the globe. Those are your IP cameras, okay? Yeah. This is a dock. Let me just try opening the first or the second or the third one. That would be sufficient. Opening. Oh wow, nice view here, nice scenery. And it's a live camera, you guys can observe it's a live camera. Cars are moving, you can see human activity here. Some other camera is loading here. Okay, some other camera is loading here. Let's just wait for these pages to refresh. Okay, no control panel is provided to me here, not an issue.
So doesn't it show the location? I mean,
Yeah, it shows the location as well. Don't worry about that, I'll show you the location as well, like the longitude and latitude coordinates. Okay, so another one here, and I can see that I'm provided with a control panel as well here. Okay, so let's try controlling it. Let's move it to the left. So I moved it to the left. Okay, and it's a live camera. People are actually working here. A bit more left. And I can change the tilt as well. Some kind of a bottling facility. By the name also I can see it says Blanton Bottling, and here I can see some certificate like Whiskey Bible. So okay, and there is a some kind of a security guard probably. Someone is also monitoring this camera because I did not change it, but it was
No, sir, it was me.
yeah.
No, it was me. I just opened the same site and I was just checking it out.
Mhm. Yeah. So what are you saying? You opened the same site?
Yes, sir, I opened the same site and I was just checking it out whether if it works or not.
Okay. Okay. Oh,
So I was moving it to left and right.
okay. Yeah. So that was that's what I was observing here. That somebody other than me is also controlling this camera. Okay.
Yes, sir, that was me.
So you can see actually I'm able to control it. Well, anyways, so I hope this thing gives you an idea, right? Let's not invade into their privacy. Close this one. Let's not wait this one to complete. So there's a website called insectcam, insectcam.org. Okay. So here it's like a public repo for IP cameras, publicly accessible and can be managed, monitored, controlled by all of you. Okay. Let's click on countries. India. Okay. Let's see some cameras relevant to our state. Seems to be some kind of a jewelry shop or some watches shop, something like that. Some kind of accessories. Don't know what it is. And I believe the same camera. These are two cameras from the same shop. Okay. Let's click on it. check it out. It's based in Karnataka, and the coordinates are here with us. And the company, the manufacturer of this camera, is also with us. Okay. And talking about the previous camera that we were able to control, that was the Blanton bottling facility. Okay. So it is not that difficult to locate Blanton bottling, right? I know the name, I know the camera. It is very easy for me to precisely pinpoint the organization as well. Let's wait for this page to load. Yeah, any doubt?
Sir, by this site, we can observe any camera in this world or some only.
By this site, we can access any cameras in the world. It is not. Yeah.
Sir, isn't it only open cameras?
Yeah. These are first of all, these are open cameras, and some of
Not
them
the
are,
one we desire, right? We can just see which are the open cameras, right?
we can even see the cameras with default configuration. Okay, default credentials like admin. They are also listed here.
Okay.
Yeah. And we have here, can we use Shodan as well for the same? Yes, we can use Shodan as well for the same. Right. Shodan is a IoT based search engine. Okay, search engine specially designed for IoT devices. Still taking a lot of time to load. Yeah, speed is fine, but probably some issue.
Sir, maybe it's from the server side. It's not responding well.
Yeah. Right. Maybe it is taking some time because of server, from the server side. Not an issue. So
But
this
there
website,
must be a lot of traffic here.
yeah. So in these thumbnails itself, you can see that it's a live camera. Okay, you can see some activity here. Seems to be like a jewelry shop. Okay, but I cannot ascertain it by this small view. But anyway, so you guys can actually go through this website. Okay, try exploring it on the basis of places, on the basis of countries, manufacturers. Like you want to see D-Link cameras, Movotix cameras, Sony cameras, so on and so forth. Places like you want to see coffee house throughout the country, throughout the world. Coffee houses from Korea, from France. Okay. Yeah, here it is. The longitude, latitude, no social distancing is followed. Okay, nobody cares about corona. Well, okay. Let's close this. Yeah, it's probably started to buffer. If I'm going to click on this camera, it is going to take me to the public IP address that is related to that camera. And it is even going to tell me the port number on which it is running. Like here in the title itself, I can see the port number is 85. Okay. What I can do is I can further scan this IP address. Okay. For open ports, I can search what service is running on port number 85. Okay. If there is any known vulnerability to that service, I can try attacking it. So that's also a way out.
I have a hypothetical question. We see in movies that when heists are conducted, people usually hack the cameras and disable them temporarily. So right now we know the public address of these public IP of these cameras, and we can do whatever we want. But the bank cameras, we do not have access, or we do not know the public IP. So how do they do that?
So first of all, I do not know how do that they do that. Okay. And second of all, why do we do not have the access to bank cameras? Okay, that is the first question. That is because bank cameras deal with some sensitive data and they actually undergo VAPT. Okay. And during the VAPT assessments, these loopholes are actually identified and are patched. Now, coming back to the first question, coming back to the square one, that how do they have access to it? So that depends upon scenario to scenario. Okay. How they are able to access those cameras. That is a different story. Okay. So see, that is, see, this is the issue. Okay. If I'm going to start showing you the practicals alongside, okay, practical for everything. So we have got a lot of things to cover. Let's close this thing. This thing as well. Google hacking database, virus total, F1, TLD, close everything. I plan to start with the scanning as well by today. So enough of passive footprinting. Let's talk about active actually. Enough of Google talking, domain lookup. Okay, let's talk about scanning. What is scanning and what actually we do in scanning. Scan ports. Okay. Now, first of all, tell me what is a port? How many types of ports there are? Okay.
So there are 65,000 something ports. I do not know the exact.
That is not going to give you good marks in an interview. If you are going to say 65,000 something something ports, okay, you need to be very precise in the number.
65,336. I'm just taking a guess here.
336. That is also wrong. Actually, it is 60,536 ports in total. And the value ranges from 0 to 65,535. Okay. This is the range. Okay. This is wrong. Let's remove it. But the question was how many types of ports there are. So actually there are two types. One is physical ports, PHYSICL, physical ports, and another one is logical ports. Okay. Can you guys give me an example of physical port?
Ports on a switch, hub, router.
Ports on a router, right? Ports on a machine. There are also physical ports, right?
LAN port.
RJ45 port.
Yes, sir.
And some other ports as well, like USB port, Ethernet I have already covered, VGA port, HDMI port, Docker port, and so on and so forth. Type-C port. Okay, those are your physical ports. And why are these ports used for? What is the utility? Why do we have these physical ports?
To connect using wire.
To connect using wire.
So to connect devices.
To connect devices, that is more precise and that is more appropriate. Okay, basically these ports are used to connect two devices, two endpoints. Okay, and if I want to connect my phone to my laptop, I'm going to use the USB port. Okay, or my Type-C port. I want to connect a router to my system. I'm going to use that RJ45 port. Okay, the Ethernet port. I hope you guys are aware of the RJ45. I believe that is going to be covered in your syllabus itself. Networking classes. So you guys have uh, networking as a subject, right?
So we
Yes,
used
sir.
to have.
You had, sorry, I didn't got you.
So
We
we
had
used
we
to have a
had it in the
subject.
last semester.
Repeat again, only one at a time.
So we used to have that subject in the fifth semester.
Right. So you have already studied about that, right? The IP addresses, subnetting, private, public, right? MAC address, 32-bit, 48-bit, 128-bit, bits, binary, hexadecimal, number systems. Because if that thing is not clear, so I will cover that as well. If you guys are going to ask me.
So just cover that in the
High level over.
concepts brief. Yeah, some high level concepts or something.
Right. Okay. So physical, okay, I'll cover that as well. Physical ports, logical ports. Physical ports I've already talked about. Physical ports are your tangible ports, ports that are tangible in nature, that you can see, that you can feel, that you can touch. Okay, those are physical ports. When I say logical ports, so logical ports that are invisible in nature, you cannot see them, you cannot touch them, you cannot feel them. Okay, those are your logical ports, but they exist. You can say these ports are actually virtual ports. Okay, they exist virtually, not physically. Okay, and when I say logical ports, so they serve the same functionality like a physical port. Okay, so logical ports are also used for endpoint connectivity, like connecting two devices with each other. Okay, now just like physical ports, we have got different physical ports for different purposes. Like RJ45 is different from USB port. Both of them have different uses. So similarly in logical ports as well, we have got different services running on different ports. It's like if we have a HTTP port number 80, that is going to differ from an SSH port, that is port number 22. Okay. So similarly, if I say how many physical ports do you have on your system, you can count them and you can tell me. Okay. If I say how many logical ports, so that is a standard number. It does not changes from system to system. It is fixed. That is 65,536 ports in total, and the value ranges from 0 to 65,535. Okay. Now, talking about these, there can be a trick question that can be asked in the interview. Okay. Like you guys must have heard about TCP protocol and the UDP protocol. Okay. Right. These are two transport layer protocols.
Yes, sir.
Right. So actually all of these ports, can all of these ports be used as TCP and UDP? TCP based port or UDP based port?
Yes, sir.
Okay, or do we have like certain specific ports for TCP and certain specific ports for UDP? Tell me, do we have
Sir,
specific?
we have, I think, specific ports for TCP and UDP.
Okay, so that was a trick question. No, that is not the case. Okay, so that is arbitrary. First of all, I can decide what port is going to run on what service. Then I can decide if it is going to be a TCP base or it is going to be a UDP base. That is absolutely dependent upon me. I can use a port for a TCP purpose, and I can use the same port for the UTP as well. Okay. So actually what you can say is we have got 65,536 TCP ports and same number of ports as UDP ports as well. Okay. So that depends upon scenario to scenario.
Sir, how do we decide that?
Depending upon the protocol that you want to use while you are configuring the machine. Okay. At that time, when you decide the protocol, at that time you can decide that what kind of protocol you are going to use. Okay. Now, next. So from here, so for both we have 0 to right. Right enough, right. So now here comes the list of certain well-known ports. Okay. So you guys must be aware of uh, certain specific types of ports. Let me just search here. Images, because these kind of questions can be asked to you in interviews. Okay, they can right away ask you what is port number 21 used for, what is port number 53 used for, 69 used for, okay, 80 used for, 443, 3389, okay, 3306, 123, 111, 110. These are like very well-known ports that you guys need to be aware of. So let me share this link. Anyways, if this link is not opening, don't worry about that. So this image, you can find it by yourself, right? Just type well-known ports, go to images, and you would be able to see this image here. Okay. Okay. If not this much, at least you guys must be aware of at least this much number of ports. Okay. Right. Okay. Physical ports, logical ports. Okay. So everything started from scanning that we want to scan for ports, huh? Open ports. What all ports are open and what all ports are closed, right? So basically what happens is if there are no ports open in the target machine, okay, then there is no way of entry into that machine. Okay. Ideal way of entry into a machine is through these ports only. Okay. If like, let's say I have my this machine, okay, Kali Linux. If I'm going to scan this machine, all the ports are closed. Okay. So actually what does this signifies? This signifies that there is no way of entry. Okay. Beside the normal login page, the normal boot login. Okay. Okay.
Sir, when we do Nmap scans of different IPs, we usually see that the HTTP ports of various machines are open. So,
Yeah.
like, is it easy to invade an HTTP port, or is it difficult?
Again, so it's not a single source solution. Okay. So it's like if you see a HTTP port is open, what does that mean? That means port number 80 is open. Either it is running on a well-known port, or it is running on a non-standard port or a proxy port like 8080. Okay. Something like that. So what you need to do is, this means that a web server is running on that machine. Now what you need to do is you need to find out the what kind of web server is running, like Apache is running, Tomcat is running, IIS is running, what kind of server is running there. Okay. And what is the version of that server which is running there. Okay. Once you identify the service name and the service version, then what you can do is you can try looking for the vulnerability or exploit of that specific version of the server. If you are lucky, okay, and if your target is using some outdated version and you are able to find some RCE exploit, like remote code execution based exploit, so that way it is going to be very easy for you to gain access, to gain full control over the system. Okay. Or otherwise, if this is not an optional, if this is not a way to gain entry, then what you need to do is you need to start enumerating the web application that is running. Okay. Because it's a HTTP server, so definitely some kind of a web application is going to be hosted there. Try enumerating that web application. Okay. And see if there is any vulnerability in the CMS of that web application, or some plugin or some web component which is being used by that web application. Okay. So that depends upon scenario to scenario. Like if port number AT is open or HTTP is running. You cannot just say like looking at the port that like this is going to be vulnerable, I can hack it. No, you cannot say it right away. That depends. I hope I have been able to answer your question.
Sir, I have certain follow-up questions, but never mind.
Go ahead.
Sir, I wanted to ask that how can we, like you said that we can find out if it's using a vulnerable CMS or plugin and we can exploit that. So,
Yeah.
what tool or how can we do that?
What tool? Okay.
Can we use?
So you want a pill for everything, huh?
Okay, sir, tell me an elaborate method we can use. I mean, don't give me a pill.
So actually what happens is we have got a very detailed enumeration guide for everything, for every port, for every service. And the enumeration method is manual method. Okay. You cannot just automate everything. If everything can be automated, then there is no need for a VAPT, a pen tester, right? For manually enumerating it, so let's do one thing. Um, I'll try to show you how you can enumerate a machine. Okay, how you can scan a machine. Okay, I'll give you a, what can I say? I'll give you a practical session for that. Okay, so that you get an idea how we can exploit a web application. So again, in spite of me giving a demo, that is not going to become a cookie cutter formula for you. Like you just take a formula from me and you can just right away apply it anywhere. That is not going to be solution. Whatever I'm going to show you, that is going to be specific to that machine, whatever I'm attacking. Okay. But the mindset would be clear, like what kind of approach you need to follow in case you are trying to enumerate a web application or a web server. Okay. That would be clear. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So coming back to my point, I was telling you about port scanning. So we have got a tool that is known as Nmap. Okay. Nmap is your network mapper tool that is basically used to identify what all open ports are running, what kind of operating system is running, and similar stuff like that. There are a whole lot of functionality of Nmap. So I'll try to show the practical for it as well. Probably not in today's session, in next session. So what you guys can do is you guys can go to Vuln Hub, okay, and try downloading a vulnerable machine from Vuln Hub. Okay, if you guys do not know, this is the website vulnhub.com. Okay, there are a lot of vulnerable machines here for you guys, from where you can practice. Do one thing, download Metasploitable from here. This is the one that I'm talking about. Let me share the link in the chat as well. Okay. It's a direct download link. You can download it, configure it in your machine, in your VMware. Okay. If you face any issue, you can let me know. Okay. So we'll try to do a hands-on session on this machine, taking it as a target, try to scan it, exploit it, enumerate it. Okay. Try to gain access to this machine. Okay, guys. So I already have it installed. I already have it set up, but I'm not going to start with it today. So, right. That would be all.
Sir, for example, I have Metasploitable 2, OWASP, BWA, and BWAP. BWAP is accesses through the link, HTTP link. But on my VM, I have BWA and Metasploitable 2. So is that enough, or?
Yeah, that is enough, but that is not that is not what we are concerned with in the next session. Okay, because Metasploitable 2 is heavily focused upon the web application. Okay, so here this is not the case. And talking about the BWAP, what I have done here is I have installed BBox. Okay, if someday arises I need to show you the demo for web application attacks, I'm going to use BWAP only, but I have downloaded the BBox. Okay, so when you downloaded the BWAP, did you configure it manually by yourself? Or you
Sir,
are,
I think I did. I think I did.
or you are using the Metasploitable 2 itself? Because
No, I configured it. I accessed it using the HTTP link, so I had to configure it.
okay. Okay. Right. So no need to configure it manually. Okay, it's a tedious process, hectic process. I'll let you know what box you need to download at what point of time for what kind of demonstration. Okay, for now you just need to download Metasploitable, and if you have Metasploitable 2, you would not be able to follow along. Okay, because there are different version of services running in on both of these boxes. They are different. Okay,
What about OWASP BWA? Will it suffice?
DVWA. DVWA, damn vulnerable web application, right? That is
Yes,
what.
sir. Yes, sir.
No, that is
Yes,
not
sir.
going to suffice. What you are saying is focus upon web application. I'm not focusing on web application. Okay. Whatever
Okay,
you have
okay.
said so far is focus upon web application. Okay. Yeah. So that would be all, guys. Okay. And probably talk about your timing, whatever concerns you have about the weekend. Okay. So if there are any changes, I'll also be informed. I'll send you the link at 3 p.m. At 3 p.m. If there are no changes, if there are changes, then I'll send you the link at updated time. Okay. Right. I hope you guys are aware about the holidays that we are going to have.